Hello guys, gals, and non-binary pals, welcome back to my channel, and today I wanted to go over everything I sold in the month of February. And let me tell ya, we made a ton of progress towards our Gilcap goal. I'm gonna go over what made me so much gil, what I focused on, what I sold, and if you're interested in the Gilcap plan itself, I do recommend watching the first video, which is linked down below. So with all that being said, let's get into it. And with February, I made a ton of gil, starting off with 406 million, getting up to 538 million on my main, and making an extra 18 million with 4 of my alts. So in total, more than 150 million gil made within just 1 month. I'm around 55% to the gil cap, which is halfway of course, but if I keep this up, I'll probably hit gil cap within 4 months or so. I also haven't been playing that much towards the end of February, so I didn't get to do everything I wanted with the plan, but I did touch on a ton of lists, and we're gonna go over crafting, gathering, flipping, and more. But now let's go ahead and start with crafting. And with crafting, I feel like it was the biggest contributor to the amount of gil I made this month, though I learned rather than having a ton of crafted furniture, glamour up willy-nilly, I focused on having quick sales and slow sales, meaning I focused more on the glamour and weapons that do sell slowly but are worth more, and also focusing on quick selling items like materia, food, and potions. But starting off, I made a ton of gil with glamour: the calfskin set, Lawless Enforcer, the Thavnarian sets, frontier pieces, the summer indigo shirt, hooded fireglass leather shirt, the frontier dress, the varsity pieces, and so on. But not just glamour, but also glamour weapons. I made a heck ton of gil with glamour weapons, and more specifically Shadowbringer's glamour weapons: the augmented Elios, the augmented Thermosis, almost getting up to 1 million gil right there, the face crown pieces, more of the Hades pieces from 840,000, 760,000, and also crafting more face crown pieces. But I'm also using these trial materials into the furniture pieces like the Storm's Crown sword stand, the Titania shadow box, and so on. I also made a ton from Endgame crafting foods, potions, and of course checking whenever your server raids. The way I tell is I check Party Finder and see whenever there is the most groups on. I also crafted a ton of Titan boa leather, bayberry cloth, and I aggressively undercut with these pieces, especially when I noticed that even if I'm crafting at normal quality, people really only tend to buy normal quality, so we kind of match the price at normal quality, but just a bit more expensive. So let's say at normal quality, Titan boa leather is at 13k, but someone's posting Titan boa leather high quality for 23k. Nobody's buying it at that price. I'm gonna post it for around maybe 15,000 or 17,000 at the highest. So aggressively undercutting, but if nobody's buying it and the demand is low, then you gotta do what you gotta do. And I sold a ton of leather. It's a really easy macro craft. I even have the green crafter gear, which is kind of crazy to say, but I still have my white gear, and that's what I'm using to craft these. Super easy, and you can sell a ton of it at a time. I also sold a ton of crafter script items such as materia. Command 10s have been really expensive, jumping up to 23,000 per each, so I was there and sure to go ahead and craft as many as I can as quickly as possible. A little earlier in the month, I was selling cutting 7s and 5s. I assume materia went up like crazy during 6.35 because of the brand new crafter beast tribe, but also along with 6.35, a lot of items dipped down in price considerably, especially bardings, which of course is because these bardings come along in the lock boxes that is with the new deep dungeon. So be very careful when you're crafting bardings. There's only a few that are not there. Pay attention, and as you can see, it's been selling for around 700,000, almost 800,000 each, and then suddenly dropping to 100,000. If the wing costs more than the barding itself, you definitely don't want to be crafting. But things like the blue feather barding, the wind swept barding, the flame cloak barding are still selling well and for quite a bit, so just check before you craft. I also did a ton of Green Company seals farming along with just gear I got from my retainers and also crafting gear to turn in. I have a whole video on that, so if you're interested, I will link it down below. But I mainly sold hardened sap, a ton of coke, and scheelite. I used the scheelite to craft wolfram ingots, and it netted me quite a bit of money, especially easy money, since sometimes I didn't even bother with crafting gear. I just sent all the stuff I got from my retainers for the grain company seals and turned it in. And as you can see, even if this stuff is kind of old, materials are pretty old, people buy a ton of it every single day, so it's a good source of gil. I also sold a few exteriors at the beginning of February. It sold a lot better at the start instead of now, since again, Louis SWAT and more higher pop servers, houses have really just been filled out already. But you can still sell exteriors even on the higher pop servers, like the Sukiya, Zukuri mansion walls, and not just mansion but house and cottage as well. These all sell pretty well, but if you do have some surplus of exteriors and it's not selling, make an alt on Phantom Sagittarius or the lower pop servers on your data center and move them there. Since there is housing availability, they will sell better than what's on your server. Or you can hold on to them until we get a new housing district expansion once again in the future. Now with gathering, I did do a bit of gathering for crystals, but it was mainly only for my own crafts. Although I did send out my retainers using my general gathering, no time node, or ethereal reduction list, and I saw what was best on that list and sent out my retainer for them. And I sold quite a bit of Doman iron ore, which is really interesting considering it's an old material, but people still use it to this day. Although hopefully next month I'll do a bit more gathering on my own so I can see just how profitable it can get. Now with farming, I spent a heck ton of time maxing out my rank in the Shadowbringers and Endwalker zones for my bi-colored gemstones. No, I didn't have my max rank yet, and my god, is it a bit of a pain to go ahead and get it. But if you do not have max rank in either of these zones, I do recommend starting off with Shadowbringers if you want to make gil. There are more items available for sale with Shadowbringer zones. For some reason, they locked a lot of the orchestrion rolls and furnishing items as untradeable in Endwalker from the bi-colored gemstone vendors, which sucks. But in Endwalker, you do get the vouchers to sell. That's only at the very end after you finish maxing out every zone. In Shadowbringers, if you max out one zone, you already have a plethora of items to go ahead and sell. And my god, are these items expensive, and they sell pretty darn well, especially orchestrion rolls. Here's one, the quick way orchestrion roll, 355,000. I sold the Neath Dark Waters for 485. Some of these orchestrion rolls go up in the millions, but it does take a while to sell. But not just orchestrion rolls. The Elegant Tombstone of Frivolity, 144,000. Full Fathom 5, another orchestrion roll for 727,000. Butterfly specimens for 234,000 each, and another source orchestrion roll for 387. I'm going to be making a fate gil making video in the future, so do be looking out for that. But overall, most of my farming came from the form of bi-colored gemstones. And I guess technically under farming, I did start gardening specifically for Thavnarian onions, and I do have a few glazed nut plants and Daviouxx seeds, so I've also been selling those. But if you want to go ahead and start farming, I recommend starting with Thavnarian onion, glazed nut, and you are not very expensive anymore. They're not worth a ton, and it's not really worth all the effort. But Thavnarian onions are still pretty good. The onion itself is around 90,000, 100k on a good day, but also these seeds are also very expensive, and sometimes, given on the day, it might be worth more than the onion itself. Though you do need a house and an outside for that, so it's not for everybody. But if you do want to go ahead and get started on gardening, it might look a little bit difficult, but it's actually pretty darn easy. There is resources on gardening that I'll link down below, and if you want a gardening specific video, I can go ahead and make that as well. Just let me know. Next up is flipping. I made a heck ton of gil with flipping, of course on my alts, but not only on my alts, but also my main as well, because while I was streaming, I found out something pretty interesting. Now if you go ahead and check the Paladin arms, you can see all the glamour weapons that Paladin has to offer. The augmented Missos, the Faith Crown Sword, Rubelex Broadsword, etc. If you want the shields, you'll go to armor and select shields, and all all the paladin shields will also be there. But something that's interesting, if you go ahead and see, hey, let me go ahead and craft this shield. When you look at the crafting method, it says no recipes to display, which is pretty weird, but not really. But if you go to paladin arms, you'll find all the items here and it's craftable, which is great for us because instead of selling the arms itself, you should always open after crafting, since people really only find the individual pieces, since that's how it's sorted by the game. As you can see, barely anybody buys these items. There has been a total of 5 sales, and here's me buying it at 600,000, while one piece of the set, the sword, is worth 890,000, and plenty of people are buying this item every week. And here is the Paladin's Rublex arms, but the sword itself is worth 499,000, and the shield again 499,000. So I spent 230, made back almost $1 million. Wow, that's a nearly 800k profit by just opening the Paladin's arms. So I've been doing that kind of flipping on a lot of servers, and that netted me quite a bit of gil. Of course, when people figure out the trick, it's gonna go down in price just a bit, but you can still snag people not understanding, oh, this is actually really cheap, I'm gonna post it for cheap, when in reality, if you open it, you'll make a lot more. I've also been making a bit of gil with the synthesis. Now, of course, I also do have a full video on the synthesis and doing it the right way, which to me is actually focusing on furniture items, especially things that are cheap and brought back by retainers. So Ute yarn is 58k each, but you can desynth the combed wool rug for 2 or 3 pieces at a time. I bought 7 of them for 8k each, so I spent around 56,000 gil, and let's see how much we'll make back. So I got 4 pieces of Ute yarn, so 52 times 4, that's 208,000, plus some demi materials and woolen yarn. So we already made a ton of profit with just desynthesis. So I sold a ton of Ute yarn, tempered glass, and demi materia, which netted me quite a bit, only desynthesis, and of course I'll continue to do that along with March. And along with flipping, these are some of the items I sold on my alts. It's really a ton of furniture, but not just furniture, a ton of emotes, glamour, fashion accessories, sometimes a mount or two, and really anything that I can flip for a minimum of 75,000 is what I aim for. If you want all the flipping presets along with saddlebag exchange, I do have them linked down below in the blog post. So guys, that was everything I made in the month of February. We're 55% on our way to Gilcap. Hopefully this can put you on the right track along with getting to Gilcap with me, and I'm really excited to see what we'll make this month. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to our YouTube members, Twitch subs, and Discord boosters. You all keep the channel going. Like, comment, subscribe if you want to, and I will hopefully see you in the next video. Bye bye.